This is a big win. I don't care if you're in Kansas City, if you are somewhere else in the country right now listening on our KCMO Talk Radio app, you're listening on KCMOTalkRadio.com. It doesn't matter to me where you're at. This is something that I know today is all about protesting, tribalism. I'm looking right now live at Minneapolis where there are, these are not 2020 protests. They're not. There are, a couple hundred people who are protesting in Minneapolis in the wake of what happened yesterday. But can we all rally around this? President Trump announcing steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. The president saying here in a statement yesterday, for a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. That's what I'm talking about, big man. That's it right there. Woo! Now, if you want me to be a fair arbiter here, the increase in home prices really don't have anything to do with Joe Biden. Now, inflation, which was under Biden's watch, did increase interest rates, which obviously makes it more expensive to own a home and buy a home with interest rates being higher. But this has now been going on. Really, this is a nearly 2-decade problem. Going back to the 2008 Great Recession, we did not build homes at the pace that we needed to coming out of that. And then you've had a multitude of other issues over the last 15 years that have stacked on top of each other that have caused this crisis today, where a lot of young people, and I say this as a millennial who's fortunate to be in a home, but plenty of my peers I know are in this situation right now, that if you are a first-time home buyer, especially millennials or Gen Zers, under 40, let's say, it is out of control. This is not what it was when you go back to oftentimes our parents' generation. Even though, I'll hear Steve Moore come on the show, former economist for the president, who has said, hey, well, back in my day, the interest rate was 18%. Okay, yes, and the home as a percentage of the median income was a fraction of what it is today. And never mind when you start factoring in property taxes and insurance and things like that, it's just not even close. That's not to say that there aren't some people who are making excuses, but it's just a totally different environment. And while I don't believe this creates a panacea in the housing market, if institutional buyers are squeezed out, it's absolutely a step in the right direction. Now, I know my libertarian friends are not going to like this. I mean, Patrick Tuohy and I are on the same page on a lot of things. I know that he would say, hey, the free market's got to do what the free market's going to do. Let the institutional buyers buy up houses. That's not on the government to control. I disagree. I completely disagree. If the government is supposed to do anything, it's supposed to do what it can within reason to protect the American dream. And home ownership is a pillar of the American dream. If you feel like you can buy a home, if you feel like you can achieve that in life, it gives you motivation to do other things. It gives you motivation to go out there and improve your career and try to make more money. And as a result, you want to do what's best for your family. You want to get married. You want to settle down. You want to have kids. If you feel like you're a forever renter stuck in a shoebox 1 or 2 bedroom apartment and you feel like there's no way for you to achieve a part of that American dream, you give up. And you get attracted to even more big government. You get attracted to, I would argue, socialist policies. So I have seen people that disagree with me, and I'm sure many of you, on different political things, on a lot of stuff, but have been on the same page when it comes to this, when it comes to institutional buyers basically getting kicked out of the housing market. In Kansas City, it's about 2 to 3% of properties here that are owned by corporations and financial institutions. Not a ton, but it is enough to, I think, impact what's going on locally. Let's go to Alex in Linwood. Hey, Alex.
Hey, P, I don't think the big buyers really have that big of a deal to do with the housing. I think it's, we talked about taxes, we talked about insurance, we talked about all that kind of stuff. But I think another big problem is what people think a first-time home buyer house should look like. Back in the day, you could see in the newspaper articles that a first home was $8,000. A first-time home now, people have set their expectations so high because they're worried about what everybody else thinks about them.
I disagree. You tell me where you can get into a reasonably priced starter home in parts of Kansas City where you also would be willing to send your kids to, let's say, the public schools. I mean, it's going to run you at least $350,000.
No, that's what I'm saying is that starter homes, the price of them have gone up so much, and that is because the builders know that people aren't, they don't want a 1,200 square foot home that doesn't have a fully furnished basement with chandeliers and granite countertops.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying, Alex. And you're right about that. The Instagramification, I just made up that word, of young people is true. They want at 25 what maybe is more achievable at 45. There's definitely some of that going on. But I also think if there were builders that were more interested in going out there and building starter homes, there would be massive demand for them. And part of that is also to blame on local jurisdictions and the incentives they give to developers who just want to build apartments, which is a lot easier and oftentimes can be more lucrative.